Hello. Welcome back. I'm delighted that you're joining me here today or tonight or whatever time it is when you're watching this video. Our conversation today, as we go through the text of A Course in Miracles, concerns dependence, as in total and complete dependence, independence, and existential threat. Nothing less. Nothing more, nothing less. What would we talk about but the very, very deep stuff? Yeah. Welcome. For whatever reason or collection of reasons, amidst all of the other content that's available on social media, you're here. So I thank you for that. Beyond that, more importantly, much more importantly, we all thank you for that because your dedication and your practice, your commitment to your spiritual practice is the highest and best offering you could ever give anyone, anywhere. There's no close second, so thank you for being here. In the text of A Course in Miracles, we're on chapter 11, section 5, which is entitled The Dynamics of the Ego. And this is a great place to start our conversation about dependence, independence, and existential threat, because Jesus puts dynamics in quotation marks. In other words, the so-called dynamics of the ego. So when something's dynamic, what's implicit there is that it has the power to do something, anything. It's dynamic. The ego is not dynamic. It has no power to do anything at all. It is a mistake, a simple mistake, and it does not exist. There you go. Okay, we could end the conversation right there. But as adult learners, we naturally need to hear some more. So as we proceed, let's just know that the ego is not dynamic at all. That's why when you read this material, dynamics appears in quotation marks, the so-called or supposed dynamics of the ego, which is nothing. It's not dynamic at all. It's nothing. So the separation, this supposed separation that we're acting out right now and reenacting again and again and again every time we choose to see ourselves as we're not. It's our choice. As we go through this wild ride of pain, excess activity, and frustration, the separation, this supposed separation, is our belief that the ego is dynamic, that it exists in and of itself, and that it can do things, that it can be a major active player in our lives. What the ego wants, and remember, it's nothing, is for us to give it power, to see it as autonomous, as completely on its own, able to act of its own accord, independent of anything and anyone. In other words, the ego wants us to accord it the status of an individual self-sustaining survival unit, which is how we see ourselves when we see ourselves as 8 billion plus separate bodies. Individual self-sustaining survival unit. So if you've heard me say that before, you may wonder where in the hell I got that term. It's actually from a woman's resume that I saw in the 1990s. That's where it's from. I don't remember who it was, but she put individual self-sustaining survival unit. And at the time, I thought, well, that's an interesting way to characterize oneself. So fast forward 30 years, and here we have the perfect depiction of the ego and ego identification. We think we're individual. We think we're self-sustaining, and we think we're survival units. However, there's a big problem with that one. The vessel that we take to be ourselves, this collection of bones and, well, 80% water and guts, doesn't survive at all, does it? No, no. And even the individual in individual self-sustaining survival unit is a mistake. If you want to see it this way, it's a complete fallacy in which we believe, or we would not appear to be here. We've given it all the credence that it appears to have for us. In fact, it has none at all. So here in this passage of the text, the truth is highlighted in italics. Truth is beyond words, but here, since we're using words and written words and spoken words and videos and podcasts and things like that, we're pointing to the truth with words. So here's what Jesus has to say. It's italicized in paragraph 3, and that's: all power is of God. What is not of him has no power to do anything. All power is of God. What is not of him, ego, has no power to do anything. Individual self-sustaining survival units running amok, doing pitched battle with one another. Yeah, no power to do anything. All power is of God. Why is that? God is. Implicit in that two-word statement is the word only, which is what's meant. Only God is, therefore all power is of God. Who else and what else? So the ego, once again, wants to be independent. It wants to be in charge. So when we identify as separate from our brother, when we identify as separate from God, our source, capital S, we suffer because it's not true. It's actually not who we are. And because we continue to believe that we are, we continue to experience suffering in the mind. We suffer the same stuff. Substitute another word that begins with an S, if you prefer. It's very appropriate because we suffer the same stuff over and over and over again when we identify as an individual self-sustaining survival unit, as an ego, as an individual human being, which incidentally, we all know deep down that we're not. You know that. Or you wouldn't be interested in spirituality. Because really think about it. I mean, how often do you think about that? We're not invited or encouraged even to think about it in this deep level, which is why it's so, so important for every single living thing that you're taking the time out of your day or evening that you're taking right now to listen to the message of our inner teacher. Oh, yeah. It's critically important because in the standard run of daily life where we're bombarded with stuff, it's very, very uncommon and rare indeed for us to pause and take a minute out, even just a quick 1 or 2 breaths, a few seconds worth, and think, God, there's got to be more to it than this. Is this all there is? Checking email? what the actual, I mean, really, I never had that where you open your inbox and there are 800 messages and you want to delete all of them as quickly as you can. Yeah. Yeah, just saying. Life is like that, where we get carried away and we don't think about this stuff. So it's very important that we do. Because how are we going to solve our problem? There's only one problem, by the way: separation. We've made it real to ourselves. So it's the problem to be solved. In truth, there is no problem because there has never been any separation of any kind. We're perfectly at home in God, one with God. We're perfectly at home and have never left our source. Ideas leave not their source. You're the thought of God, the extension of God. God extends himself. Where are you? Exactly. So here, while we believe that we're elsewhere, it appears that we've got a lot of work to do, doesn't it? Enter this course, which we do as a self-study curriculum. We do this under the guidance of our inner teacher, who instructs us as we go. So we undo the results of all of this mess, this hot mess. We undo the results of it in our mind. Remember, this is a course in mind training. And let me comment that all spirituality is a course in mind training. It's where the action is. That we're not taught that on a daily basis, are we? Unless you're tuning in here. This is a course in mind training. If that's not what you want, no problem. It's your choice. We undo the results of this ego mess, of all of the ego's stuff. We undo it all simply by recognizing that its source is not natural. It's not of God, therefore it does not exist. It's a mistake. It's not natural. The ego's source is a mistake. It does not exist. It is not of God, therefore it has no power to do anything. So let's not give it any. And it disappears. We do this in our mind, and yes, absolutely and unequivocally, yes, your mind is that powerful. Don't fear that, please. Your mind is that powerful. So if you're experiencing doubts, first of all, that's quite natural. I mean, it is so common on the spiritual path to get to a certain point, right? And think, what am I doing? Oh my God. Exactly. When we reach this point, this is where our relationship with our inner teacher comes into play, and where it becomes apparent that it's really critical because we can appeal to our inner teacher for help. Now, what is our inner teacher? Well, it's the Holy Spirit. You could call the Holy Spirit whatever you want. It's Jesus, who is the Holy Spirit. It's whatever you want to call it. It's this part of our mind that speaks for God. It's known by many names in A Course in Miracles itself, so you could certainly call it Fred if you wanted to. Yes, Fred is speaking to you right now about your oneness with God. So we'd all do very, very well to listen, because when something lands for you on one of these broadcasts, it's your inner teacher that's speaking to you. It's part of our mind. You'll notice I said our mind, singular. So let's spend some time here on the title piece, dependence and independence. Oh, yeah, an existential threat. Yeah, because why not, right? Our creative power, our creative function, our reality comes from our direct dependence on God. We are 100% completely, totally, and absolutely dependent on God. We're dependent on God. Totally. That's the source of our creative power and joy and limitlessness, magnificence, all of that. Happiness, yeah. Peace, love. We're completely dependent on God. Here in the world where we think we're an ego, that is apt to be viewed as an existential threat. It's the ego that's threatened. The ego is completely threatened, mortally threatened by the idea of dependency. Remember, it thinks that it is independent, autonomous, completely autonomous, an independent, self-sustaining survival unit, completely real and existent, all on its own, dependent only on itself for its existence, and completely on its own, separate, in other words. The ego is mortally afraid of dependency, and here we are acknowledging the truth that we're totally dependent, totally dependent on God. So what we experience here is the ego always attacks. It attacks and lashes out in defense of separation. So here's where there appears to be a conflict in our minds. The ego is 100% certain of its purpose. Separation, promote separation, attack on behalf of separation, get you to blame, judge, and condemn everybody. Scroll your social media feed with hatred in your heart, condemning everyone. Well, that's just one example. But the ego always attacks on behalf of separation, and as a thought system, it is 100% consistent and is certain of its purpose. Separation, 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 and everything that entails. A hot mess. Keep the hot mess going on in your mind. The ego is entirely certain of its purpose, even though it's wrong. And it is wrong. There is no separation of any kind. We don't have to give the ego any credence, but where we experience confusion is, while the ego is completely certain of its purpose, while the Holy Spirit, the other thought system that we could choose, is completely certain of its purpose too. There is no separation of any kind. Well, both are completely certain of their purposes. We're confused because we're uncertain of ours. Now, Jesus uses the second person pronoun here in paragraph 7, you. You are confused because you're unsure of yours, your purpose. This is what appears to happen to us when we're torn. This is why we experience highs and lows in life, where one minute we're experiencing tremendous bliss and we feel literally like we're on top of the world. joyous, rapturous, and then something happens and we feel terrible. The next second, even, it could be that we fall without any grace whatsoever. We flop down from our supposed high of highs, and then we blame people. We feel awful. We become sad or depressed, and it is a roller coaster ride. It is. It's exhausting, isn't it? Highs and lows. One minute you feel great, the next minute you feel terrible. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. And it appears never to end until you make the decision to end it, which is in your mind and your choice to make. We choose the Holy Spirit. We choose love instead of fear. That's another way of looking at it. We choose God instead of the ego. We choose the Holy Spirit instead of the ego. We choose truth instead of illusion, light instead of dark, self with a capital S instead of lowercase s, little individual self-sustaining survival unit self, who's always afraid. That's the choice that we make in the present moment. All confusion is from confusion about this choice. We're invited in the study and practice of A Course in Miracles, and in all spirituality, whether a tradition says it or not, they all lead to the same place. There are many doors, of course, in world spirituality. Many doors all lead to the same place. They all lead to God in the end. Why? There is nothing else. So in the study and practice of this course, we're invited to make this choice over and over, the choice for love, for the Holy Spirit, for God, over and over again in our mind, where the action is. We make a choice. We make a decision right now. And we're invited to want the peace of God. This is a prominent idea in this course. We're invited to want the peace of God and nothing else. And nothing else, because when we really do want the peace of God and nothing else, there's no more confusion. There's no push and pull. We're invited to want the peace of God and nothing else. Now, if that seems like a tall order for you, because you want to condemn and blame somebody, okay. When you experience the urge to condemn and blame somebody, understand that for what it is. It's an opportunity for forgiveness. That's what it is. And you could choose to forgive or not. Again, your choice. We can make this choice. It seems mortally threatening to the ego to acknowledge our complete dependence on God, because as we do that, we withdraw any belief in the ego whatsoever, and it simply vanishes because it's never been there in the first place. It's a simple mistake. So if you're new to this course, or if this is the first time or the second time that you've seen one of these videos, first of all, welcome. A couple of quick points that you may know. A Course in Miracles is a self-study curriculum. We do this under the guidance of our inner teacher, and we take what we want to take at a given time. In other words, we take what we're willing to take at a given time. So there's no central hierarchy, there's no central authority, and this pixelated image on your screen is not in charge of you. Thank God, right? There's no centralized authority. It's not a religion. It's a self-study curriculum. Along the way, there will be questions because spirituality is a process of the deepest kind of self-inquiry. So if you have particular questions or comments, please feel welcome to leave them here. I will send an answer, a response on YouTube to anything that's asked here on YouTube. And it may be that the response is, I'm going to cover that excellent question in a future video like this, because I frequently do that. So if you have particular questions, by the way, that's a great topic to ask. If it's coming up for you, I invite you to ask that, because I guarantee you there is someone possibly, quite possibly, on the other side of the world that's wondering the exact same thing. The two of you may never physically meet in this lifetime, yet you will benefit one another tremendously. That's the way this works. There's one mind after all, remember. If you've not yet joined us, we'd also love to have you join. This is the subscription button here. That's the arrow in the corner of your screen. So when you click or hover on that, you'll see a prompt to go ahead and subscribe. And we invite you to do that. There are several videos that appear each week as we go through the text of A Course in Miracles. So thank you again for tuning in and for your dedication and commitment to practice, which I think we all need to remind ourselves that that is the highest and best offering we could ever give anyone, anywhere. So thank you. I'll see you soon.